When it's time to defend yourself against someone who's threatening you, working together as a team ups your odds considerably. Hi everyone, this is John with today's active self-protection lesson out of Massachusetts in the United States. Here we're going to see a disgruntled ex-employee who tries to rob a pizza shop there, and he's going to pay for what he decides to try to do. Let's watch what happens, including one of the defenders who is going to talk us through what happens. Then we'll come back and learn some lessons. Let's listen in on the description from the guy who was there.
Well, it was going pretty normal, you know, nothing was different, straight up Tuesday night. Yeah, I was just making sandwiches on my unit, in my position, and before I knew it, this man had come through the front doors, and he was fully concealed, wearing a ski mask, black gloves, black sunglasses, a full hood, and an overcoat. And he appeared in big stature, but it was actually pillows stuffed in his coat to make himself appear bigger. And he approached the counter where my friend Dan was at the register, and he had a gun in his hand. And in the other hand, he had a brown bag, and threw the bag at Dan, commanding him to put the money in the bag, making demands, saying, "Open the register." And he pointed the gun at Dan's head. And my friend Dan, he froze in place. He didn't even know what to do. And in a split second, the suspect had jumped over the counter and shoved Dan around and grabbed him by the chest and threw him against the wall, and then started choking him and putting the gun, choking him with one hand, and with the other hand he had the gun to his head. And I was probably 3 feet behind the suspect at that point, whose back was turned to me, and I froze for a moment as well. And in a split second, I made a choice to act, and I grabbed him with my right arm around the neck from behind and tried to force him down to the ground, and we started the fight then. He waved the gun around, and at one point it was aimed at me, so my brother Andrew took action as well, joined the fight, and started grabbing him, wrestling him, and he slipped free from me. And my brother was just fighting him, and I think landed a good punch on him in the face. And after that, he was kind of kicking and shoving, and he started knocking things down and kicked the whole shelf down. And at that point, the weapon was out of his hands, on the floor somewhere. We didn't know where it went. And my brother had gotten him over the counter into the lobby, and they were wrestling and fighting. My brother actually body slammed him on the ground, and the suspect took all the weight. So he was on the ground, and at that moment I hopped over the counter and I hopped on top of him on his back and forced him in like a position where he couldn't move. And he kept telling me, you know who I am, it's Sean, and you know, this is just a joke, I'm just kidding. But that is not a joke by any means.
Did you think the gun was real?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Were you afraid at some point you might die?
No. No, I didn't even think about that possibility.
Did you think about that today at all?
Kind of. I mean, it literally didn't happen, but yeah, the thought is there. It's a little scary, but at the same time, at the time when it happened, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was more concerned about my friends, more concerned about my family, because everyone that works here is very close. A lot of my family is here, a lot of my good friends are here, and I would do it again.
What did your boss have to say?
Oh, I walked into work this morning and he called me a hero. He said, "There's the hero."
How'd that make you feel?
Uneasy. You know, I don't really care for the attention too much. I wouldn't say I'm a hero by any means. I just did what I had to do and what I felt was right.
When you realized who it was, what was going through your mind?
Well, in the exact moment I realized who it was, I had him on the ground and he looked up at me. He still had the mask over his mouth, but his eyes, he looked at me and I saw his hair, a piece of his hair and his facial hair. And I immediately recognized him, and I just, in my head, I was like, you know, it's personal. I know him outside of work, inside of work. He used to be the manager here. So I was a little upset more. I got more angry, and I kind of like shoved him more and held him harder. And I said, you're really stupid. Why would you do this? And he was still fighting me the entire time. And I was like, don't move. He kept reaching for something in his front coat pocket, and I was like, I don't know what you're reaching for, but you're not gonna get it.
What happened when the police came?
Oh, immediately when I saw them, I saw the badge, I saw the guns
guy
drawn.
came in with his cuffs ready because they saw we had him pinned, and there was an officer behind the first officer with his gun drawn. Immediately tucked it away because we knew we had him secured, and I hopped off. By that time, I was so exhausted, my arms literally felt like jello, and I just took a breather, and the cops had him cuffed and out of here within 30 seconds.
I think it was really cool that one of the defenders walked us through what happened there. And even though that took a little longer, I think it was really worth it to have his perspective. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the poll if you think that that was valuable or if you'd rather have the lessons shorter. I'm interested to see what you'd prefer. I want to talk about some significant lessons out of this one, including having the emotional fitness to fight for your life no matter what, about partner tactics and working together, and about having the grappling skills to take a firearm away from an attacker and hold them so they don't threaten you anymore. Let's first talk about how fast these things go down. You see this guy just in a matter of about 2 seconds has come in the door, thrown a bag at them, and jumped the counter. These employees don't have a long time, and that's our first lesson is emotional fitness, is an understanding of how to flip the switch and to be able to go from your daily activities, in these guys' case, they're making food, to defending yourself against somebody who is assaulting you. Now, you learn that by training, by getting on the mat. Yes, by watching videos like this so you see how fast things happen and you recognize how fast you have to flip the switch. But more than that, by training, by doing things on the mat that you recognize when this stimulus happens, I have to be able to respond in this way. And that's an incredibly important lesson. And that emotional fitness, the ability to represent something to yourself such that you're powerful enough to deal with it is important. Now I want to talk about the bystander effect too. You see the guy in the Pat's lid there. This guy comes over the counter and just blasts his coworker, and you can see him kind of standing there, a smile still on his face like, what's going on with that? Part of emotional fitness is combating both the bystander effect and normalcy bias. Both those things are definitely a part, but to be able to go, oh no, something's wrong, and to go to condition orange to red to actually act to defend yourself and those around you is an incredibly important part of emotional fitness. Now, you can see he had a gun right there. Thankfully, it wasn't a good gun. It wasn't a loaded gun. And now these guys have got to work together. You notice that not only do they need the grappling skills to hold the guy, but there are multiple good guys here and they got to be able to work together. I can't tell you enough. Think about it. If you got friends with you, you have to be able to talk with them about what you're doing and what you need them to do. So in other words, if one guy's got him by the waist, hey, I got up, you get down, or just the opposite, communicating as partners, incredibly important. And now having some understanding here of them getting him on the ground and knowing your grappling skills, knowing here how to hold somebody down. It is harder than you think it is. And if you haven't done it on the mat, it is very difficult to hold somebody down who doesn't want to be held down, to hold wrist control like that. You heard him say, man, I was totally gassed by the end. So communicating as partners, having somebody sit on his feet like this, having somebody else go, okay, I'll take wrist control for you for a little while. Let's get this guy's hands behind him and use our skills to be able to not have to use muscles for this is incredibly important. So make sure you know your partner tactics, make sure your emotional fitness is strong, make sure your grappling is strong to cover your asp.